Okay, welcome everybody to the meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee. My name is Wendy Barnard. I'm a Democratic Services Officer and I'm clerk to the committee. I just wondered if we could start the meeting by everybody just introducing themselves. If we could just ask Peter to start that.
That's fine. I think if we maybe let's just work through members of the committee first. I am but an official. So I'll maybe do the roll call. So Phil, do you want to start?
Yeah, Councillor Phil Murphy, member for Coen.
Okay, Tony.
Councillor Tony Eason, member for Dewstoke Caldecott.
Councillor John Crook, Mega East and Undy.
Councillor Strong.
Councillor Peter Strong, Councillor for Roggett.
Councillor Chandler.
Councillor Ian Chandler, member for Lantilia Cresceni.
Councillor Lane.
Councillor Malcolm Lane, Councillor for the Mardy.
Councillor Greenland.
Bob Greenland, Devon.
Thank you. Councillor Wright. That's very small writing on my screen. Councillor Wright.
Hi, Councillor Wright, Grofield Ward.
Okay, and I think that's all member representatives, and then our layperson representatives with us today. We've got one apology, haven't we, Wendy, as confirmed?
Yes, we have apologies for absence from Martin Veal.
Any member apologies before we move on to?
No.
Okay, so in terms of laypersons present, we have Andrew Blackmore.
Hello, Andrew Blackmore, a newly appointed lay member.
And Colin Prosser.
Yes, hello, Colin Prosser, lay member.
Okay, well, it's good to put names to faces in our orientation for the committee. Wendy, if I maybe hand over to you and you can start to take us through the agenda. Appointment of chair, I'm guessing, as first off.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the election of chair of the committee. Are there any nominations, please?
Can I nominate Andrew Blackmore?
I'll second that.
Super. Any other nominations, please? Okay, if there's no other nominations, I'll just put a vote in the chat bar. Just bear with me a moment.
Wendy, I've got IT problems. I discovered why I couldn't get this stuff, so I'll have to vote manually.
So the vote is already in the chat bar, so if you could indicate there, but also take an account of Councillor Murphy's raising of hand, that's fine.
So I do it on my phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if we could ask our lay members as well, just to show a hand if you're in favour. Just one, two. Yeah, we've received 5 votes so far through the vote in the chat. Members who haven't voted that way, could you see if you can see the vote? So we have 6 votes now. We have 7 votes. You've voted, right? We've got 10 votes in, so by a majority that we can see, that's carried then. So I'd like to invite Mr. Blackmore to take the chair, please.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for that vote of confidence, and I look forward to getting to know you and working with you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you. Right, let's move on with the agenda. The next agenda item 2, is the appointment of a vice chair. Are there any, is there a point of order?
No, I'd like to nominate Peter Strong.
Thank you. Is there someone to second that? Thank you. Any other nominations? I don't see any sort of hands, any other expressions of interest, so we'll move to the vote. Wendy, I'm in your capable hands in terms of organising that vote, please.
Certainly, just bear with me a moment. The vote should be in the chat bar now.
You'll have to take mine manually again.
Okay, so I think we can do this concurrently. For those of you who don't have IT access to enable you to vote electronically, I think that is Colin Prosser and Councillor Murphy. Could you show by means of raising your hand whether you support Peter's nomination as Vice Chair? Thank you.
Okay, there's 7 votes for and the 2 extra votes there, so that's carried.
Thank you. Congratulations, Peter. I don't know whether it's appropriate for you to join us. I'll look to Peter for...
No, you can stay in the chamber. Just yourself here.
Mightily relieved that I can.
Well done again. Okay, so with support of Wendy and Peter, let's move through the agenda. The next item is apologies for absence. And if I recall, I do recall one absence from Martin Veal, who's our newly appointed lay member. But are there any others, Wendy?
Yes, Rachel Freitag from Audit Wales.
Thank you. I'm assuming that we are quorate, and what I'm going to assume is that that was taken into account before the voting. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry to be a pain.
Right, I'm hoping you can, oh gosh, I can see myself. That is not a pretty sight. Okay, so hopefully you can see me now. And welcome once again. Moving on with the agenda, we're now on to item 4, declarations of interest. Could you let me know of any declarations of interest, please, relevant to this meeting? Perhaps those online first. Perhaps you could signal whether you have any declarations of interest to report. I'm not seeing any, Wendy. So those in the chamber, please let me know of any declarations of interest. I'm seeing some shakes of heads. Doesn't appear to be anything at all. In that case, let's move on. Thank you. The next item is item 5, the appointment of members to a selection panel for the remaining lay person. And maybe I'll look to Peter in the first instance, Andrew in the first instance, to provide some context for this agenda item.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Andrew Wathen, Chief Internal Auditor at Monmouthshire Council. So I'm supporting the Governance and Audit Committee, and you'll be receiving quite a few reports from me on a regular basis, as you will do from other officers. In terms of the recruitment and selection process for lay members, under the Local Government and Elections Act Wales 2021, the format of the Governance and Audit Committee has changed in that we now need to have more lay members than we had previously. So within Monmouthshire's Governance and Audit Committee, we have 12 members, and 1/3 of that membership does need to be lay members, i.e. non-councillors. We have 3 lay members on board, and we went through a successful recruitment process for that. And we have 1 vacancy. So we do need to go back out to advert to get the additional 4th lay member on board with our Governance and Audit Committee. And what we need to do is get a selection of members from the committee to work through that recruitment process. And it will be supported by myself and Wendy. We will facilitate the process, but the selection panel does need to be formed from members within the committee. So previously we had the chair and 3 other members, and that worked quite well. So I'll be looking today for volunteers for that selection panel. It's not an onerous task, because we only need to go through the recruitment of 1 post. There will be a little time commitment in terms of going through the application forms and then going through an interview process. So, Chair, if you wouldn't mind asking for volunteers to sit on the selection and recruitment panel for the 4th lay member, that would be very much appreciated.
Thank you very, very much for that. So I'd note that I would like to sit on that selection panel, so thank you for that. So therefore, we're looking for 3 additional members.
As I was on the last one, I'm quite happy to do this one. I think I'm the only one. Yes, I'm the only one left who was on it. So we'll get some consistency, won't we?
That continuity is important. So thank you, Phil. Much appreciated. Another 2. Thank you, Peter.
And yourself?
I've included myself, yeah. So there's 1 more vacancy. And thank you, Colin. And I think that's us. I'm looking for, Andrew, we're happy. Thank you for that. And I assume you and Wendy will be in touch in due course in terms of agreeing dates, etc.
Awful, this is.
Yes, Chair, we will be. Yeah.
Isn't it? And every time somebody puts their mic on, it goes to Tony's mic.
On.
Okay, if we're happy to move on to agenda item 6, and that's the member induction, a brief update. Hopefully, I'm looking at Andrew Wathen yet again, who's going to provide that update. Otherwise, we're going to be in problem.
Thanks, Chair. I've got a brief update, but I think Pete wants to take the floor first, and then I'll add anything that I need to at the end. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, we're just, Councillor Reeson, we're just having some technical issues. So the audio, I believe, is playing absolutely fine. It's just the camera functioning within the chamber that's the issue. No, it's fine. No, it's absolutely fine. We'll work with it. So, Councillor Reeson, you're just going to have to make do at times with. Okay, so just just in terms of what is just a very brief update, just in terms of member induction, it's just to sort of highlight, as is outlined in the council diary, there is an induction session that is arranged for 2 o'clock this Thursday for members of the Governance and Audit Committee. Be a variety of contributions that we're looking to play into that induction session, certainly from Andrew, in terms of providing an overview in terms of the role of the Governance and Audit Committee, obviously the Local Government Elections Act, and what that's introduced and by way of additional responsibility therein. And some of the linkages then across with scrutiny committees and how they operate. I think beyond that, we're going to look to bring in some contributions in from those report authors that will, I think you'll start to see quite frequently through the meetings. Certainly Andrew himself from an internal audit perspective, Jonathan Davis, and Jonathan, I think you're on the call. Probably throwing you a slight curveball here if you're not suited and booted, but as to whether you want to just make an introduction or what lucky is.
Always prepared, Peter. Afternoon, members. Jonathan Davis, Assistant Head of Finance. Routinely I'd be bringing finance-related reports through to the committee alongside Treasury-related reports, which we are required by statute to bring you. So, I will be a familiar face. Not at the next meeting, but certainly shortly after that. So nice to meet you all, and I'm sure I'll spend some more time going through some details in future meetings. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, John. And then beyond that, if I can move on to Richard Jones. Richard, you're with us today as well. Do you want to maybe just make an introduction again, similarly?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Good afternoon, everyone. Richard Jones, Performance Manager is my role, and I'll be bringing forward various reports to committee around your role to provide assurance of the Council's performance management arrangements. So that would include things such as our self-assessment process and arrangements, our strategic risk register, and also our progress and work with our Audit Wales colleagues and the Council's response into their findings as well. So I look forward to working with you going forward, and I know you'll see on your forward work programme later on the agenda some of the upcoming reports we'll be bringing to you in the forthcoming meetings. Nice to meet you again.
Thanks, Rich. We don't have any representatives from Audit Wales with us today. No, Wendy, no. But we'll look to secure an extension of an invite to them for the induction session, at least to afford them an opportunity to make a similar contribution in terms of the reports that they will bring into the committee as well as part of the normal work programme. And then maybe if I go full circle then back into Andrew. Andrew, do you want to maybe just cover off just a brief introduction, and by way of, I guess, the reports that you would ordinarily bring up and into the committee? Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Yeah, there will be annual reports from me in terms of an annual internal audit report with my annual audit opinion. There'll be my annual audit plan, giving you an indication of what work my team will be covering across the organisation. And there will be regular reporting between in terms of quarterly updates in terms of the performance of the team, and the assurance I can give you as members of the Governance and Audit Committee on the adequacies of the internal control environment, the governance arrangements and risk management processes that the Council does have in place. And we're, in terms of the detail of that, when we report, I'm quite happy to take questions and challenges as we go through, and hopefully you'll become more familiar with the reporting style as we progress through the year. There'll be other reports as well in between those quarterly updates, and we can give more information on that and more details on Thursday, Pete, I think, and go into a bit more detail. But just to give you an overview in terms of for some of the new members coming to the committee today, the purpose of the Governance and Audit Committee is for you to ensure that the authority has appropriate controls in place, appropriate systems in place for sound financial management, appropriate governance, risk management, internal controls, but not to, for example, detail what risks should be included and what should be excluded. It's more about the systems and making sure that the systems are appropriate and are in place. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. And I think just to wrap, really, just by way of the induction piece. So we've got Thursday. That's diarised as highlighted. Wendy, you'll be circulating a meeting invite for the team's invite to allow that to operate virtually as well as in person here on Thursday. I'm mindful of the level of induction that members are requiring over the coming weeks. So I think we're going to strike the right balance, I think, Andrew, isn't it? Just in terms of probably an hour to an hour and a half on Thursday and possibly no more than that. And I think what we'll do then moving forward from that is certainly in terms of breaking you in gently, we'll make sure that with report authors that they are making sure when introducing reports in the early cycle of the Governance and Audit Committee that they're just making it very clear, the purpose of the report and what they're presenting thereon in, and before they get to the detail. Further to that, and I think we've always operated, Andrew, on the basis of a continual feedback loop, and obviously in conjunction with yourself, Chair, just to understand any further specific training that we might look to arrange, often looking forward at the forward work programme and where that might be best placed. Thursday's our first line of sight in terms of providing that. It will be recorded, so for any members who have difficulties in being able to access that in person or virtually, it will be recorded and available thereon in for members of the committee to sort of view before we get into the first meeting proper, which I think is on the 20th of June, Wendy, isn't it? 20th June. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, Chair, can I give my apologies for Thursday? I've got a prior commitment, and as I've been on the Audit Committee for donkey's years, I don't think I need it anyway.
Okay, noted. Thank you. I was going to ask other members. Councillor Chandler.
Yes, sorry, I was not aware of a meeting on Thursday. I've got a full work schedule, so I won't be able to make that. Was that publicised before, or is that?
Yeah, it's been in council diary, but since the outside.
It wasn't in our induction pack.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so
the only thing in the induction pack is the chair's training on Thursday morning.
So just to come back in, Chair, apologies if there's some inconsistency between the induction pack and what's shown on the council diary, but we'll close that loop by the fact that the session's being recorded anyway, and obviously that'll be made available for you to be able to digest at your disposal. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That would be helpful. I'm just wondering whether you want an idea of numbers at this stage in terms of which members are able to attend on Thursday. Would that be useful for you?
I think we'll run the session regardless anyway, and we'll do it live there and then for the purposes of the live recording. So whether we have one or the full 10, I guess it makes no difference in reality.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that. Before we move on, are there any final questions or comments on this induction programme? I'm seeing shakes of heads, so I'm assuming not. So looking forward to Thursday, thank you. If we could then move on to the forward work programme, I do note that a late paper has been submitted, which hopefully some members have seen, but I'm not quite clear in terms of what the purpose of this agenda item is. So look to Andrew in the first instance, just to set out what you want the committee to do with this paper.
Thank you, Chair. This gives the committee members an overview of what to expect at each committee meeting for the full year. It goes through till March 2023, and it gives you a flavour of what reports will be presented to you and which authors will be presenting them to you. Again, we don't want to go into too much detail today, but you can see there's a range of authors internally and externally to the organisation. The external will be from Audit Wales, and there's a good mix in terms of internal audit reports, external audit reports, risk management, financial information. So our financial colleagues, you met John already, he will be presenting those in terms of budgetary, medium-term financial plan, treasury strategy, etc. And these are generally time-related, so you'll see these coming through on a regular pattern as the years go on. But this, for 2022-23, this gives you an indication of what reports to expect, what to look forward to in terms of being members of Governance and Audit Committee for the current financial year.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments on that work programme, please? No, doesn't look like it. Thank you. In which case, we shall move on to item 8, which is the date of the next meeting, which has already been noted as being the 20th of June. I'm not too sure which day that is. I think that's a Monday. So just on the point of order, do we check whether people are able to make that meeting at this stage?
I should be lying on a beach in Egypt, Chair. I'm sorry. I could take my laptop with me, but I think it might not be working.
Okay. Are there any other apologies at this stage we should note?
Go check what time the meeting is.
Okay, well, in that case, I think we are done. Thank you once again. Future meetings will hopefully be a bit more sort of less clunky. And thank you yet again for your vote of confidence. So I will look here to check that there's nothing else you should be doing, in which case we should close the meeting. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.